Preparing to stream. Setting up. Meeting for stream. Let me make sure that I have this off so I don't get feedback. So excited. I'm so excited. And took off the mic. We are live. We are live on YouTube. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to We Could Be Wrong, but Who Cares? I'm Anderson.
This is Christopher Harris.
This is Kevin.
I'm John.
And Mike.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, on YouTube land. Let's see how many of us are going to watch us live today on We Could Be Wrong. We have 2 watchers. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. All right. So we have 2 watchers. That's pretty awesome. Let's get some more. So today we're going to open up the show with a couple of questions that Mike had about the January 6th commission, I believe. And then from there, we'll continue after Mike's.
Okay, yeah. John, we were talking last week about the January 6th, and you were upset, bothered by the fact that the government was wasting so much money on the investigations. And I hadn't given it too much research, but it kind of struck me that I thought it was more serious than that. So I did some research on it, and there have been, hope our numbers are fairly close. There have been about 725 arrests so far. There have been 71 criminal sentences. About 34 of those, no, fewer than that, about 30 of those have been resulted in jail time, about 43%. Overall, there were 225 assault, resisting arrest, impeding an officer, and those are the misdemeanors you're talking about. But there were also 75 charges of using deadly ordnance, weapons, causing serious bodily harm. So it seemed like there were, quite a few serious crimes here that I thought should be taken into effect. So far, the longest sentence has been 63 months. I don't know, John, what do you think? I thought it was pretty serious and we should continue it, but I guess you were thinking we're wasting money.
I think that we're wasting resources on a lot of stuff with that. And especially in relationship to that, where we could be putting those resources. So I did take a look again at it today. And right now there have been 772 arrests as of, and this is, what is this? This is Insider that I have this up on right now. So if anybody wants to look at that.
Insider as Business Insider, John, just want to be clear.
No, insider.com. It's not I don't think it's a left wing or a right wing site, but it's the thing about this one here that I found was interesting is they have 15 pages of the people who have been charged and then what the different, like what the guilty things were. So there's a thing you can go on there and it's a little bit weird of an interface, but there's 15 pages worth of the name, charges, and the notes, and if there have been articles written about those people. But some of the articles that it links to are there's no way for me to read all this stuff, but they're reporting as of February 14th at 772 arrests so far. There have been doesn't give me a total on the guilty, but as I was going through the pages, still the most common, the most whatever you want to call it, the most prevalent guilty thing is parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building, and
or trespass. Yeah, that was an easy one too.
Right, there's some on there that are like variations of trespass or disorderly conduct or things like that. And why to this day I don't understand if what we're going to get is we're going to spend a ton of federal money to go to somebody's state, and this is from 48 different states, is what they have listed here. There's some people that I don't know if there's a state that doesn't have anybody, but right now that they're listing 48 states on here. So we're sending FBI agents to go travel around the country to pick up people, to bring them back, and then have them plead to misdemeanors.
John, every state has an FBI office. They don't actually
Yep.
like they're not federal Washington agents that have to go to each state every time. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, like the local police will pick them up.
No, I understand what you're saying, that there's an FBI agency in each state. There's multiple offices in each state. Like, the state that we're in, I think, has 9 offices.
Mhm.
But again, keep in mind, we're taking federal money to transport people
There's
back there, to
definitely
hold
some
people, to do all this
resources.
kind of stuff
Try not to speak over each other, please.
for
Sure.
misdemeanors. And the other thing too, I mean, I don't want to derail the conversation, but with this stuff that came out last week about the charging sheets being wrong on these guys, and now there's a there is a legitimate case for them to all appeal, is just, again, that's just, I mean, I'm continuously floored by how much garbage we spend money on versus things that I feel like we could be doing better on.
Which is always the case with government, for sure.
Right.
So
but,
it's not
I mean,
important.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
No,
'Cause I always talk and you never talk.
No, I'm gonna have to disagree. Of course, I think it's very important to see, get to the bottom of it, especially with all those peace officers that were assaulted. One passed away. I don't know how many committed suicide off the trauma
3.
of
Or
what happened to them. I mean, it's very important. They try to overthrow the government and the assaulted peace officers, and we need to get to the bottom of it, so this won't happen again.
So I would completely disagree with the premise on that. I don't think people were there to overthrow the government. I think that the vast majority of people that were there to protest, and that was it.
John,
I
have a
don't think that
question.
you had.
Wow.
I don't think
I
you
don't know
had
what you're-
thousands of people come in to try to overthrow the government, for the simple fact that the amount of firearms charges. If you want to go take a look at that list, see how many firearms charges there are. How many people, as opposed to things like people are breaking windows or people are throwing barricades or those little wire racks or whatever like that, or picking up fire extinguishers or whatever is around. If it is an absolute real trying to overthrow the government, and you don't have charges of people, who the only person that fired a gun was the police officer that killed Ashley Babbitt. Is that right?
correct.
I mean, where either you have however many people were there. I don't know. Let's just say I'm going to make it easy.
John, hold on. Can you hold that thought, because I want to be clear. Do you feel the death of Ashley Babbitt was a crime?
Do I feel the death of Ashley Babbitt was a crime?
Yeah, meaning the Secret Service person, he committed a crime in killing her. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is a Capitol Police officer.
Okay, the Capitol
I thought it was, yeah.
officer committed a crime in shooting her.
I don't know the answer to that. I've seen the video of the aftermath, but I haven't. And honestly, I'll be honest, I haven't looked into it. I don't know the answer to that question that I can say 100% yes, 100% no. But I know that was, as far as I'm aware, that was the only person to fire a gun.
I believe so. Let me shift for a minute, John. What did you think about Trump sending federal troops into Portland, Oregon back in 2020? Were you supportive of that, or were you against that?
I was supportive of that because we had already had the attempted murder of how many people were in the courthouse when they barricaded the doors and then lit the place on fire? It was 15, right? Something like that. They attempted to kill 15 people on federal property.
So never mind, they wanted to hang Pence. Never mind all that, right? Never mind all those threats. So by you saying that, it's making me feel like you can care less about those peace officers that got hurt. That's what you're saying to me. That's what I'm getting out of it. Well, I could be wrong because you're saying it's not a big deal.
I'm saying what's not a big deal?
That people rushed the Capitol. that those peace officers got hurt.
I'm arguing with the premise that all the people that were there were trying to overthrow the government. Were there people there that did wrong things? Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever said everybody there is completely innocent as a newborn baby.
You said that trying to like put resources to hold them accountable is wasteful of resources.
Wasteful, yeah.
I absolutely think that when you're going to spend a ton of money going and raiding somebody's house, transporting them back to DC, holding them there, spending money on transporting them back and forth to court, spending money on the lawyers, because most of these people are getting public defenders, spending money on the actual case, all of this stuff, as opposed to things that we could be doing with it, like what we were talking about last time, child trafficking, putting those same resources towards something else. And what are you getting out of it? You're getting a misdemeanor charge of picketing, parading, and demonstrating. And I can't understand why that is a greater good than using those same resources to trying to stop child trafficking, the increase of that, or human trafficking in general. I mean, you can pick a lot of other crimes that I feel like we could put those resources towards that would be better served.
Demonstrating the false notion that the election was stolen too.
So again, I argue with the premise of what you're saying.
Yeah, but you're still saying you can care less about those peace officers getting hurt.
Actually, Emerson, if you listen to everything that I've said, at no point have I said that those officers, I could care less about those officers. I don't know why you're inferring that.
Because you're saying
I have never said that.
But you're saying we're wasting on getting to the bottom of it. So maybe that guy that was demonstrating that the FBI is going to the house to, maybe he might know the guy that assaulted that peace officer.
So
that's
how
the
come
reason
he
why the
wasn't
FBI is out
convicted?
there.
So how come he wasn't convicted of assaulting a police officer?
Well,
because he wasn't the one, probably. Because there were so many people there.
A bunch have. Well, okay, I want to go back to Portland a minute because I looked at the two situations and they're really very similar. The amount of arrests are very similar in terms of the number of people that were arrested in Portland and that was like a 100-day siege in Portland. And you seem to be supportive that the federal government got involved in trying to defend. The premise was to defend federal property, right? The courthouse. That was the premise of sending the federal troops. Is that not correct?
That's how I understood it.
It was to protect the property, but also to protect the workers inside, because there had already been, by the time that those federal troops, you say troops, whatever.
By
the time federal law enforcement came out there, because it wasn't like we were sending stormtroopers out there like the Nazis to march around. By the time federal law enforcement got there, how many people had already been killed?
No, one total in all of Portland. One person was killed.
So you had the person that died inside the pawn shop that was shot to death, right? You had the guy that was beaten to death outside the courthouse.
He didn't die. He didn't die. I don't think he died, John. He was beaten, but I don't think he died.
Just like those cops.
Well, no, I'm not trying to disagree. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not trying to be cranky here, but I think only one person died totally. I think the guy that got beaten up survived, actually. But he got beaten up by fellow crowd members.
You had the retired officer that was shot to death in the pawn shop. You had literally people shooting in the streets for that. And keep in mind, that was after the Trump administration offered to send National Guard in to quell that riot. This is after not just one day. This is after months of this happening.
Right. Correct. A long period of time.
Right. Now, here's the thing. Now, you go, and this kind of gets under my skin, but you're saying I don't care about police officers that were injured, which I've never said. So here's the thing. Why aren't we spending the money to convict people of assault on a police officer? Why are we spending money on convictions for, how about, I can give you the answers. I can give you the person. So you have Jack Griffith, right? Convicted of parading, demonstrating, and picketing. Why wasn't he charged with assault on the police officer? Why wasn't
in
why wasn't he
Washington-
convicted of that?
in
Did they have
Washington-
enough evidence to convict him of that? Did he actually assault a police officer?
Are you talking about in Washington, in the
Yeah.
January 6th? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because if you
I
guys
don't
want to
know.
make the accusation about how I don't care about police officers, which by the way, my brother is one, I will. That gets me worked up a little bit.
Well, John, but you're saying that we're using our wasteful resources on those investigations. That's what you're saying. That's the reason why I brought that up.
There was
So for instance,
Investigating
140.
somebody for picketing, parading, and
Maybe that
demonstrating on a
well, maybe-
Capitol
So
building.
John, so for instance, say I was at the Capitol, and they come investigate me. I might not have knowledge of that of that individual that assaulted that peace officer. Maybe that's the reason
Right.
why they're doing those investigations.
And I mean, yeah. So from
So
I
it's
mean,
for me, it's not wasteful.
I mean, there was 104. Like I think somebody said there was 140 officers assaulted. They were hospitalized in some sort of way or treated for their injuries. So somebody did that, and I mean that's the thing that happens. I mean, what happens with the protests that turn into riots? You arrest some people for lighting fires. You arrest other people for loitering, and you put them through the process, and you see what happens, and you plead most of them out. I mean, that's how I thought kind of the process went.
Okay, so let's take your premise that these people are being investigated to try to find other people who are committing worse crimes.
That's not what I said.
So, no, I'm talking about Anderson.
Hold on,
Okay.
guys, please. I kind of want to read this because it goes because I had no idea who Mr. Griffin was. The judge said that the government has muddled the approach, and blocker harsher sentences. The judge Howland sentenced Griffin to probation despite the government's recommendation for 3 months in prison. However, she argued probation should not become the normal sentence for cases like his. For cases like his, probation should not be the normal sentence. She says she called the government's approach muddled and how it has charged hundreds of people in the January 6th riot, saying it ties the hands of judges like her. Probation recommendations are becoming common in similar cases, according to Judge Howell. She also states that harsher sentences could give the proper weight to the events of January 6th and deter others from interrupting the peaceful transfer of power in the future elections. So the judge herself had problems with how, like John stated, arrested hundreds of people, but she believed that him getting the probation should not have been the appropriate thing, but the government muddled it. So again, this was the charge should be, disturbing interrupting the peaceful transfer of power, which is very important in our country. Is that fair to say? John, please answer.
Sorry, I was on mute. I would argue with the premise of that judge as well, because if somebody is getting convicted of a misdemeanor, then you have certain sentencing guidelines that is introduced into the law against that. So if you have,
But
whatever it happens to be, and you have a minimum and a maximum sentence, then the judge is supposed to go by that sentencing. The sentencing guidelines that are there. You can't assign somebody death penalty for jaywalking.
But again, this was a plea deal. So he went for a lower, a lower sentence, which the government wanted because he plea deal. Most likely he became a informant himself. Most likely, I don't know this at all. But
So
I
now,
believe.
yeah, but now we're getting into supposition and conjecture about this.
I hear you. So I could be wrong on that, but they were like, all right, 3 months, and she believed that because of how the government approached it all, it tied hands like hers. So there was she did have an idea of what she wanted to sentence, but her judgment as a judge was to allow this. And again, you have to understand this person was identified by a informant himself through pictures and social media, related to the rioter. You know what I mean? So again, it's kind of hard to argue that
you're assigning this guy the title of rioter as well when he's convicted of a misdemeanor, which is parading, demonstrating, and picketing in a Capitol building.
Has given them that. To be fair, it's society.
No. I would not say society has. I would say this is absolutely what I would consider to be a moving of the Overton window. This is you can judge by the actual cases, and then you can say everybody in the media is going, "Oh, this is an insurrection. It's violent. It's this and that." Just like how many times did we hear the report about, and I forget the officer's name, but that this police officer was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. And then we find out, oh, you know what? That didn't actually happen.
No, it didn't. No.
And so we go on these things, and now we assign these people titles of rioter, and now we assign these people these different titles here, when really, if you wanted to, and I'll give you another example, right? Mm-hmm. So you have Scott Fairland. Now, he was actually convicted of assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers. Okay, great. So if we have the evidence to convict this guy of assaulting a police officer, then by all means, have him picked up, have him serve his prison sentence, have him go to trial, all that good stuff. Why are we wasting time? And here's the other thing. We are spending, and just in the January 6th incident itself, we are spending all this time on these misdemeanors. Again, we have not one, according to the FBI, we have not one lead on the guy that's laying bombs around DC.
Right, that's true as well.
What are we doing? Are we not putting resources on this guy? A guy that tried to bomb the DNC, a guy that tried to bomb the RNC. There was bombs at both places. We're not. What are we doing about this guy?
And pipe bombs at the Capitol as well.
Are they not investigating that?
Yeah, I don't think they make investigations.
Brother, that is the question that I am asking. Policy. We're putting these resources, financial and personnel. It's a zero-sum game. We don't have infinity amount of federal law enforcement. If you take one and you put them on a case, you can't take another one off the shelf and put them somewhere. If we're doing this, we're putting this stuff against these guys, again, picketing and parading and stuff. I'll apologize, Kevin. I'll be done in one sentence. If we're putting them towards those people, why can't we, at the very least, put them towards this bomber?
Do you know for a fact they're not investigating this? They don't make investigations public. They try to keep their acts secret, law enforcement, as a rule of thumb.
I know that the last statement that I heard from Christopher Wray was that they had no, I'm sorry, not Christopher Wray, excuse me. The spokesperson for the FBI said that they have no leads on this person.
A lot of times they say they have no
allegedly
leads when they have leads because they don't want the person to flee.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, but we've been able to track a 59-year-old grandma back to her home in Arkansas, arrest her, and bring her back through.
The bomber might have,
but we have not brought
easier than a 59-year-old.
But we have not. Okay, then why did we put the resources to that grandma as opposed to putting them onto that bomber and find the bomber?
Because some of the officers that feel victimized from that day are happy that the FBI and them are doing something.
They're happy that we arrested a 59-year-old grandmother and transported her so she could be convicted of
shot to say that 59-year-old grandma, but they're sure happy that Jack Griffin got
arrested. Was what I said unfactual?
No, about 59-year-old grandma. No,
how is it a cheap shot? That's the truth. We signed federal resources to go do that.
Because you know that people are going to feel different when they hear 59-year-old grandma to a guy dressed up in a bull costume running around with war paint. You know what I mean?
Right, because the narrative is that everybody there was rioters. They were trying to overthrow the government. They were trying to do all this stuff, when that's not the truth. And the other thing is that, again,
that was the truth.
We
saw it on TV.
That is not.
See, that's the reason why we're going to disagree, because you don't
John,
think that happened at all.
Well,
So
John, I would agree with you that it wasn't the insurrection that it has been, portrayed as. There was this one guy with the wheelchair getting in. They were like, they couldn't even keep the wheelchair guy out. Like, the security must have been really non-existent. And
There is videos of the police holding the door open while people walk in.
Right, I'm with you, and for sure. So I mean,
as am
I.
As am I. By the way, I don't think it's an insurrection. I agree.
Yeah. So that we can agree that there is definitely maybe an exaggeration of the intent, and you could see that it's maybe in the spirit of protest. But protesters get arrested all the time. That's kind of like a thing that happens.
Well,
Right.
let me talk about Oregon a bit, because John and Chris, it's the same thing. The judges are bitching and moaning and groaning because, for the most part, they're not taking the charges seriously. Most of the protesters that were arrested in Oregon were given a misdemeanor and let go. Same issue as happened in Washington, and so it's a matter of, okay, if you wanted the federal government to go in there to take care of business there, then I don't know why you'd have an issue with the federal government taking care of the business at January 6th, because there are similar kinds of issues. Civil protests that got out of control. Obviously, Oregon was a longer one, but I'm pretty sure not many people died in Oregon. What they finally found out about Oregon was that like 90% of the protesters were local, meaning they were from Oregon. Most of them were white, not black. The ones that were arrested were not black. The average age of the arrested person was 28 years old. A lot of college students. The same kind of premise, John. You're talking about, wait a minute, are we going to go after these guys? Well, if they're throwing Molotov cocktails at federal buildings, yeah, they need to be arrested for that. I want the FBI to go after them for doing that. Just like I want them to go after the January 6th people that did the heinous crimes.
Yeah, when Trump sent the federal resources to Portland to take care of some, political fight that was going on that killed one person and maybe injured 140 or so, like, wasn't that diverting and wasting resources that could have went to ending pedophilia, like on the scale of what's the worst? That's to John.
Well, especially since the governor. I know.
Okay, sorry.
But especially since the pause. I thought he was just going to let it go. The mayor of Portland didn't want them there. The governor of Oregon didn't want them there. Trump took it upon himself to do that to protect federal buildings. That was the premise of putting him there.
Well, yeah, you got to, keep things from getting out of hand.
Let's tie up this conversation. It was supposed to be a short snippet. Let me give you guys the final word on it. We'll start with Mike, then move over to Kevin, then Anderson, and then John to close it off about this topic. Mike?
Real quick for me, just I really did a lot of research on the Portland, and there were a lot of similarities in terms of the number of arrests. Obviously, Portland much longer, but if you're going to use a premise that we need to defend these federal buildings and use federal forces to do so, then I don't think you should be upset at the premise that the federal government's going to be involved in a riot, is what I would call it, a riot. That's all, out of control riot that happened in the nation's capital. Very symbolic, very important to clean up.
Kevin?
For January 6th, I would just like to say, I look at January 6th guys and the Black Lives Matters guys as, Americans who are, rightly upset with corruption in their government, the police, in the establishment more generally. And I try to stay consistent on all the different positions that I take. I don't agree with either of the groups. Technically, a lot of the people did break the law. There were fires set, there were policemen hit, and that's kind of like the way that it is. And that's the way I would see it, I think.
Keep investigating. We need to investigate. I don't think it's wasteful spending when it comes to keeping our people here in the States safe.
John, would you like to close it out?
First off, it was not an insurrection. Again, there were more people armed in the Portland riots than there were in January 6th. I don't think that I haven't looked it up in a long time, but I don't think it was just one person killed there. And most of the law enforcement that was sent to Portland was to protect the building, not to do criminal investigations, versus what we're seeing with January 6th, where it's to do criminal investigations. We could have posted National Guard there, but National Guard was turned down. That could have stopped a lot of this stuff. So if we go back to the premise, again, this was not an insurrection. You want to arrest the people that assaulted police? Great, go do it. Arrest everyone who assaulted a police officer. But let's not waste time on whoever, the 59-year-old grandma, the 18-year-old, whoever, the 29-year-old, whatever, to get them on a misdemeanor charge when we could be putting those resources towards something better and saving lives.
Well said, John. For those that are pulling out their hair saying, what is he talking about? Was there more people armed in Oregon than in DC? Was it not an insurrection? Didn't other Republicans call it an insurrection? There's a show that will answer all those questions you'll be pulling out your hair for. It's the After Show, hosted by John. For We Could Be Wrong. That does not by Sean. Hosted by Sean.
Not hosted by John.
Yeah, I thought you said John.
Sean.
No, he said Sean. Damn, Mike.
I heard John the first time too.
Sorry.
As you can tell, we'll do a good job in answering that. And maybe you feel the other way. Maybe you feel that, Anderson's taking it too far and that Mike just wants to be combative because he just can't let things go. Listen to our after show of We Could Be Wrong. Next topic. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I was bringing up the topics for this week, it was brought to my attention that the Durham report was released again, and there was spying, and there was espionage, and there was infiltration. And why isn't this show talking about it? Well, guess what, guys? It's on docket. So, which one of our wonderful hosts would like to talk about the Durham report? Floor is open.
I don't understand.
Can you give us the premise? Sorry, Kevin. Can you give me the premise of the Durham report for people who don't know what it is?
It's not a report. The report hasn't been finished yet.
Or the premise of...
Okay, hold on. That's actually really interesting that you say that because from the article I read and from the statements that I read from Mr. Durham himself, he said that there might have been a misinterpretation for the report that he filed. So, I mean, he put it himself as a report. So I'm a bit confused on that, but that's also for the after show. So, John, since you know a lot of it, can you please drop the logic to us, drop the facts? Here you are. Go for it.
We all just ran over Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin. Take it.
It's okay. I was just gonna say I don't understand kind of like I'm not really. Did it happen? Didn't happen? There's a guy, coming out with all these facts. I don't understand the relevance of it.
Well, thank you, Kevin. That sounds great. So the thing is that it was asked to us why we haven't talked about it. That's why it's being talked about. So, John, would you like to explain to everyone what your opinion is on it?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
So Durham made a filing on I'm going to pull up my notes here. On the 11th, him, Andrew DePhillips, Jonathan Algor, and Michael Crichton. I might be pronouncing those names wrong, but on the 11th, he filed he created a filing that was basically the United States versus Michael Sussman. Michael Sussman was a member of the Clinton campaign who was giving information to the FBI. And the filing itself is in regards to letting Michael Sussman know that there is a conflict of interest between the attorneys who are representing him and the case that's going on. If you're a federal prosecutor and you see a conflict of interest, you have to file something with the court in order to say that. Now, in that filing, he does report, if you want to call it that there have been issues where the Clinton campaign has paid a technology company to infiltrate, and yes, the word infiltrate is in there, Trump Tower, Trump's residence, even going so far as to collect data from the executive office of the president and then report that data back to the Clinton campaign. But also, one of the allegations in there is, and this applies to Biden's current security chief, that they were passing fake information on to the FBI. And that's that filing. There was another filing after that was done by Sussman's lawyers asking for an expounding on what evidence that Durham had against his client, and then Durham sent in another filing that outlined some of the evidence that he has against Sussman. The point and the big thing about this, and this is the way that I take this. This is all part of an actual coup, a bloodless coup, but a coup nonetheless, to take a person out, the president of the United States, and to remove him from office under false pretenses.
Meaning Trump, right? They were going to do this to Trump.
Correct.
This was during the campaign, I thought. No, it wasn't Hillary Clinton. Didn't he?
No, this was
wasn't
after
he running
Trump.
a,
This was
Oh no,
after
the
Trump.
first
Yeah.
date that Durham brings up in there is 2014.
Oh, which is way up.
From 2014 going through when he was elected into the presidency. So not only monitoring, and there's a whole lot of issues in there. So number one, they were monitoring his residence, his businesses. They were monitoring a doctor's office or a medical provider, and a whole bunch of other things that
so
were in
they
there.
like
And then going through all the way after he was elected president, and not just what was going on in the White House, but it actually lists 3 or 4 different things in there, and then says, we found this among other data. So he didn't expand onto what all they had found that this company had gone into and was basically reporting data back. Now, Sussman had been giving information to the FBI. In particular, that group was trying to show a connection, if I'm remembering this right, between Alpha Bank out of Russia or Germany back to the Trump campaign to try to tie them to Russia that way.
okay.
Okay.
So the campaign. So I have a question. So before 2016, all of these allegations you're talking about goes to 2014. This is allegations of campaign impropriety, right? It's like illegal wiretaps from they paid like a private service of some sort to try to get data as a campaign. So all of those crimes that would have been committed from 2014, Sussman doing this, all these people going, that's campaign impropriety crimes we're talking about, right?
No, because some of this is passing false information off to the FBI. Some of this is
Or
lying
to
to
the FBI.
Congress. Some of this
Sure.
is it's
Okay.
some other
So
things
we
of
have
that nature.
lying and campaign impropriety here. right? In up to 2016. And when Donald Trump becomes president, this is the distinction I'm making, then it's, it's not just spying on someone running for president. You're spying on someone that has, top secret clearance access, and you're probably committing way more crimes after that date, right?
It's not, unfortunately, it's not that simple.
I mean, it
Because
is,
when
but
the-
you
when the
can
CIA
complicate it. I have faith in.
Well, when the CIA was involved, they were also using, according to some of the stuff that's come out, the CIA was also using people out of Australia and was also using people out of England. The CIA does not have the authority to spy on any American citizen. They are only supposed to be a foreign intelligence agency. They do not have any law
sorry,
enforcement abilities here in the United States.
I have a question. Is the accusation between 2014 and 2016 they were using active CIA agents to spy on Trump? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And that they were paying those spies out of federal tax dollars.
Okay.
Even before Trump was a candidate, or when did he become a candidate? In 2015?
About that, yeah.
So this was even before he
I don't
became a
remember.
candidate, John? Well, I mean, the election was
I don't
6
remember the
weeks.
day he announced his candidate.
Okay, and keep in mind, most people thought, or at least my impression was, most people thought Trump didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning even the Republican nomination. Is that a fair thing to say at the beginning, John? Is that fair or not?
I'm not sure. I know that I can tell you from my perspective, as far as I know, he was the underdog, because I think
Right.
most people were going towards either Cruz or Carson. But
Correct.
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember a lot of that.
Well, I
So
remember.
Jeb
Yeah, I
Bush-
think he was.
let me in. So let me come in. So Trump announced his candidacy June 16th, 2015. I remember that day. I remember it very well because me and another panelist here had a bet about it.
It's funny you brought that up. It's funny you brought that up because I was right before you said that, I was like, you know what? That is true because I lost $50.
You lost $150, but
Then I guess I owe you another 50 then. No,
also, I actually have Mr. Durham's filing, and nowhere does the state infiltrate. I actually have the filing before me. I can send it all to you guys as well. And also, I also want to bring up a couple of things that really caught my attention. This was very hot news in Fox and in Newsmax and in The Hill. And, this was very hot news until last week, where former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stated this has come close to malice, and where she hinted at suing these news outlets, and all of a sudden it's fizzled out. I also wanted to make it clear also earlier this week, that Mr. Durham said he is not to blame if members of the media misinterpret the details he is included in his court filing last week. He also said that that statements comes as Trump and right-wing outlets falsely claim that Hillary campaign illegally spied on him. The allegation relies on these allegations rely on the Durham filing, which does not accuse anyone of breaking the law by spying or hacking. So these are go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have a question because I'm hearing two things. It was like active FBI and CIA agents. Like, why are they being directed by the Hillary Clinton campaign? Like, if they're clocking in,
they're not, because in the filing it mentions the Obama administration.
Which filing are you looking at?
She was Secretary of State then, by the way, right?
Yes, she was.
Yeah. Okay. So potentially.
I'm not saying she's not involved. I'm not saying she's not involved, but I'm just saying from the campaign standpoint, I'm sure they may have been colluding in some way, but it's like, it's a weird accusation to put on a campaign. You would more, it's like if they're on the clock for the FBI, they're being told by the director of the FBI, and it's more of a problem from that structure rather than the, campaign that's also happening at the same time. And I mean, Also, I mean, wasn't Trump under investigation? Like, I mean, he has long ties with like the mob and all sorts of different things. If
Well,
he's
I
going to
mean,
run,
allegedly.
no, not allegedly. I mean, in order to,
I mean, do you have facts of that?
in order to build,
It doesn't matter.
high-rises in
I'm sorry,
concrete in
Kevin.
New
I'm
York
sorry,
in the
Kevin. You are
1980s,
making
you had-
allegations that are not. I mean, you
that
don't
is
know
not
this.
accurate. In order to build
That is not
concrete high-
accurate. You know for a fact.
Yes, in order to build concrete high rises in the 1980s, you had to deal with the mob until they were fucking locked up in RICO. That is a fact.
Okay. Well, we could be wrong.
The
States
concrete commission.
that the opinion stated by Kevin is of his own and does not represent the show of We Could Be Wrong, nor the members of We Could Be Wrong.
No, I saw Anderson nodding. He nodded. He agrees with it. I'm sure he does.
Anderson cannot be seen on camera, so there's no way you
Oh,
can say that.
oh,
Me and Mike FaceTime each other all the time.
I'm sorry, but John, all right, that's fair that we can't make that accusation, right, John?
Which accusation? The one
That
that,
Kevin
I'm
is
lying, or the one
making.
that Kevin's lying?
Roy Cohen was his lawyer and also the lawyer for John Gotti and all sorts of mob guys. He ran an Atlantic City casino. Are we saying that he never knew?
Kevin, I'm saying what you're making. I mean, you don't know this for a fact. You're assuming this. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I'm assuming that he ran casinos. I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay. All right.
that he was mobbed up. That he was mobbed up.
Yes, that he was mobbed up.
I did not say he was mobbed up. I'm saying that
Oh, well,
he's
it
mob
sounded like it.
adjacent. That you have to do deals with an organization that is not part of your organization in order to be in the casino business.
Are you saying that President Trump committed a crime?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, good. That's it.
Right.
We're good. Please continue.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting. Please.
Great.
Okay.
Is it? Oh, in order to own a casino, you do, especially at the time that he was dealing in the casino business, it is known that they were ran by the mob. You know, after the fact, mob people were arrested for owning the casino.
Please make your point, brother. I'm sorry, man. Please make your point.
I don't know why this is like new information for everybody.
Yeah, everybody's seen Bugsy Siegel.
Well, it's just another.
You saw what happened to him.
Right. He was watching.
It's just adding another layer of complication to it. I guess Kevin is, like, okay, let's stick with Sussman.
I'm not trying to add another layer of complication, but I'm just saying there was reasonable, even if he didn't have the ties, there was reason to investigate through before he ran for a president. You
think that's
didn't think
fair,
that the FBI would check the guy out?
Oh, I got you. I got where you're going. Okay.
So they're sitting there seeing all this FBI guys on the clock punching in, investigating Trump. You would expect that, is my point.
Oh, okay. I mean,
I see it now. Yeah.
John, would you like to comment on that, or you want to move on from that?
On which part?
On most likely they were investigating him because it's very possible that he had ties to the mob somehow.
Where is the evidence that he was being investigated because he was tied to the mob?
Is there evidence on that, Kevin?
There's no FBI report that's why they're doing it. There are FBI reports saying that they're investigating him because of the Trump-Russia collusion, which turned out to be completely fake. And again,
how would they know that until they?
It's part of a coup, because you can read the case file as to why they
coup. He
say
won
they
the
opened up the case.
election. Subsequently, he won the election.
But they're saying they were digging up this information to impeach him and remove him from office. Is that fair, John? That's what they were doing. But
they were attempting to remove him from office. They were attempting to remove a duly elected president from office.
Yeah, by
creating a false scenario of collusion with the Russians.
Collusion. Correct. Okay. Although, I know that was the issue.
This is a different accusation. We were talking about the spying. Now the collusion with the Russians was journalists, or was that also the campaign and the FBI?
The filing that Durham put in was against Michael Sussman.
Yes.
Michael Sussman is being indicted for giving false information about Trump's ties to Russia to the FBI and also the attorneys group that is representing him, which also represents, and I can't remember the other guy.
It's okay.
Something.
The defendant further claimed that these lookups demonstrated that Trump and or his associates were using supposedly rare Russian-made wireless phones in the vicinity of the White House and other location. Page 4. That's where that Russia link came in, Kevin. So yeah.
Okay, and I put in, did Trump ever have legal issues with the mob? And I found about 4 to a bunch of articles. Just what were Donald Trump's ties to the mob? Donald Trump's mafia connections. Decades later, he is still in trouble. Yes, Donald Trump has been linked to the mob. The truth about Donald Trump and the mob. Donald Trump's alleged mob ties. 5 most damaging revelations. It's Trump's time to tell the truth, the whole truth about the mob.
We could be wrong. Would like to state that what Mike is reading are opinions of his own, does not represent the.
No, they're titles of articles. So Kevin is at least, he's not out of, coming from another planet here. Yeah, there. So
right. I'm saying there's enough for an FBI investigation if he's going to run for president.
Okay, guys, I kind of feel like we're going off the rails here.
Okay, well, I just
so
FYI, just to support.
Let's go back to the simplest question then.
Yes.
If they were investigating him for mob ties,
it's
why
about
didn't they say they were investigating him for mob ties? Why is the case?
They weren't.
Why
John.
is the case in regards to Russian collusion?
Yes,
there is no case.
They weren't, but right-wing media was making links to Clinton when this was underneath the Obama administration, not Hillary Clinton herself. And I think that's why some of these right-wing outlets stopped talking about it when she said this was close to malice, speaking legal terms to make a defamation lawsuit against Fox News. And as we know, Fox News is already, hashing out one with the Dominion voting machines, and I pronounced their name wrong. The after show will fix that.
Wait. There is a direct tie to the Clinton campaign.
But from what I'm understanding, it's direct. There's Sussman, right? That is that direct tie, correct? That's the direct tie you're speaking of, correct? This is how I'm comprehending this, because Hillary Clinton herself says she has nothing to do with this at all, and this is why she's threatening a lawsuit.
So not just the tie with Michael Sussman, but again, remember that filing there is about a conflict of interest between Sussman and Latham and Watkins, the attorneys who were representing him. That filing is in regards to reporting, hey, you need to take a look at your legal group because there may be a conflict of interest. That's the first part of this thing. Mm-hmm. Then Sussman's attorneys come back and say, well, if you're going to do this, then you need to, and I'm just abbreviating the thing in their response, because this is a multiple thing. They ask, okay, well, if you're going to do this, what evidence do you have? He comes back with another filing and starts to outline some of the evidence that goes in there. They come back with another filing saying that, well, you shouldn't have put this out because now you're contaminating the jury pool and so on and so forth. There's multiple filings here. The one that we're talking about as the quote unquote Durham report is the one, the one that I'm referencing the most is the one where he is citing the conflict of interest between the two, because that's where he charges that the Clinton campaign had paid technology company one with tech executive one. He doesn't go into the details of who's who in regards to that, but then
had worked with the defendant, a U.S. investigating firm related to law firm one on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign and numerous cyber researches. That's
right.
Meaning
now law firm one, we can pretty much, I'm pretty confident we can purse out that being Perkins Coie, but
the question is, what is it? Is this bigger than Watergate? And why has the right-wing media dropped it?
I don't think the right-wing media has dropped it.
Hillary hinting at a lawsuit.
I don't think anyone has dropped it. I don't think anyone has dropped it. Now, here's the thing.
Okay.
I told you this before. I don't watch network news, so I can't tell you what's going on NBC or CNN or Fox or whatever. Most of what I read is independent journalism that I found.
Same here.
Reference back to the original, but I haven't seen any sort of drop in this thing. So
Okay.
is this bigger than Watergate? Yes, because this is multiple government agencies colluding in regards to trying to take a sitting president out. That is what I see in this case. You can disagree with me if you want. Obviously, everybody's got their own opinion.
Of course.
But you also have, I think, one of the most shocking developments of this is not even in this filing. It was back when Rick Grinnell declassified some of John Brennan's documents, where he was telling, John Brennan was the head of CIA under Obama, where he was telling him, hey, the Russians know about what Clinton is doing. And that was a major thing. And obviously I'm paraphrasing the document.
But John, I guess the thing that confuses me is why Durham himself would address and say it is not, he is not to blame if the media overstates or misinterprets the facts of his filing. I mean, I find that kind of suspect that he sort of distance himself with some of the things that's been reported, such as this is bigger than Watergate.
Why would you not say that if the accusation is you're contaminating the jury pool?
Oh, that's very interesting. I did not think of it in that.
That's the filing that that's in the filing that Latham and Watkins. I don't remember if it's the first one or the second, but that's one of the allegations that they're making is that by him filing the conflict of interest thing, he's contaminating the jury pool.
All right, multiple government agencies are going after a sitting president.
Oh, here, okay? I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry. Defense counsel has presumed the government bad faith and asserts that the special counsel office intentionally sought to politicize this case, inflame media's coverage, and taint the jury pool. Thursday filing says that's simply not true. I don't know how to interpret that. John, do you?
He said, she said kind of thing. He said, she said, right?
So Latham and Watkins is charging Durham with inflaming everybody and doing that kind of stuff. And then Durham comes back with a response to it saying that he's not. And then he cites a couple of examples in the past where people have put out conflict of interest things. That's the way I interpret it, because that's how I read the filings.
Okay.
Okay. So we have multiple.
So Kevin, let me give you one thing. Just so everyone can look, because everyone can look this up. When we talk about multiple government agencies, let me just tell you just one thing quick about the FBI. The FBI is the one that went to go get the FISA warrants.
Sure.
Right? So FISA allows you to spy on an American citizen because they are supposedly a threat to America by having ties to a foreign power.
Sure.
It's I can't remember what FISA stands for off the top of my head.
I get
foreign intelligence something or other. The FBI turned in requests for 4 FISAs that I remember of. Of the information that they cited in those FISAs, Comey admitted under oath to Congress that they did not follow the Woods procedure, which the Woods procedure means that you go and you independently verify the accusations in there before you turn it into the court. So they're basically passing false information, or if they didn't know it was false, they didn't go and check and independently verify the information before they turned it into the court.
John.
And then they're saying, oh, it was just a mistake.
John.
Kevin.
The president was under investigation. They went and tried to impeach him. It failed. That happened to Clinton. Like, all these things have happened. You're like, oh, they used government agencies to try to come after the sitting president. I mean, it's way more like, it's way more.
Are you
similar
comparing what happened to Trump to what happened to Bill Clinton?
Yes.
Why in the world would those two things have anything in common?
There were 2 presidents that were attempted to be impeached, and it passed through the one part, and then it wasn't continued out where they left office. The same exact thing happened.
Clinton's
but
impeachment was for lying under oath.
I don't
Trump's,
care what it's for. They both were impeached.
no, you need to care what it's for,
Okay.
because this is he lied under oath. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He said, I didn't have sexual relations with that woman, and he did.
right.
That was a pretty cut and dry case.
I'm
This one
not
here,
saying
they're saying
right.
that Trump is working for a foreign president. That he works
one
directly
was
for
guilty,
Putin.
one was not, maybe, or it wasn't proven that one was, but both presidents were attempted to be impeached. You're saying that one president, they tried to manufacture the thing that they were supposed to be impeached for. That's the accusation.
Yes.
This is not okay. Like that's not that. Even if that's true, I don't see how that being this giant groundbreaking thing. They were not successful. They did not remove him from office.
So it's fine to commit crimes as long as you're
I'm
not
not saying
successful
it's
at the
fine.
crime.
I'm not saying it's fine. I'm just saying that it's not groundbreaking, especially when you're not successful at it. Yeah, I would say that, like, you would never say that the greatest bank robbery, the greatest scandal of all time was a bank robbery that wasn't even as successful, right?
Well,
So you have literally a manufactured coup, and it's
No.
and I don't understand why you're saying it's okay since it wasn't.
You're
successful.
saying it's an
Well-
attempted coup by the current FBI and CIA is what the accusation is.
Not completely the current, because there are different leaders in both sections. So
Okay,
Brennan
John-
isn't with the CIA anymore, and Comey isn't with the FBI anymore. But people like Peter Strzok, like John Brennan, like James Comey, like whoever Peter Strzok was having the affair with, whose name I can't remember. All of those people that were involved in there.
Okay, let me try something. John, to me, saying that this particular thing is a coup is the same thing, which is worst case scenario, is the same thing as saying the January 6th was an insurrection.
That's a good point, Mike.
Okay, you're creating a motivation that may not be there. You're not declaring innocence, but I don't know that the motivation is the same. So that's and one other thing, let me read this real quick, because I read this and it makes sense to me. In a court submission last week, Durham alleged that a tech executive who was supposed to be helping the government combat cyber threats used his privileged access to internet data, specifically domain name systems, traffic between servers, to mine contact between Russia and facilities connected to Donald Trump. The information, Durham says, was taken out of context and distorted to suggest that Trump might be a clandestine agent of Vladimir Putin's regime. Alarmingly, some of the internet traffic mined in early 2017 was generated by the executive office of the president, the White House. That is the tech executive, who has been identified as Rodney Joffe, was monitored then President Trump, trying to portray him as Putin's mole. So that's the nuts and bolts of what somebody was trying to do against Trump. Is that fair, John?
Let me take myself off mute. Is what fair, that they were mining the data and then reporting it back, or
what I read? Is that a fairly accurate representation of what Durham reported, that they were using government sources illegally to, in essence, try to build a case against Trump having Russian collusion? That's the way I'm reading this report, reading what he said, what this article says.
So
I'm not trying to trick you.
I just want to make sure that I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying, and that I try to respond as clearly as I can. So I would agree with, yes, that the Clinton campaign was paying this group to mine data basically from the campaign, from a bunch of different sources. So from Trump Tower, from businesses that he had, whatever this medical center is, which that I don't know how that ties in, but I know there's some theories on that. And then going into the White House, and not just the White House, but the executive office of the president, which also includes, if I'm understanding it right, the cabinet, and then some of the agencies that are directly under. And then that information was passed along to the opposition party, and then there was false information done by the opposition party to the FBI and to
When
I
is
take that
this?
back, because we don't know where all that information went, other than
Yeah.
what's exactly in the filing, which is Sussman passing file. We don't know if that information got out to another group. We
Hey,
don't know if
John,
that
can we
information got out
let
to somebody else.
Kevin say,
Is this before? I don't. Is this before or after 2016? Because like once Trump is
Both.
elected, that's his FBI and CIA, right? Or no? Am I mistaken?
It's both before and after.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think so.
after it's his own FBI and CIA that are doing this. Like at no right.
Yes.
Right. And then Sussman, the lawyer for Clinton, actually, he gets in trouble when he lies to the FBI to conceal that he was doing this for Clinton's campaign. That's part of it as well, right, John?
Right. He said he was doing it as a good citizen, and then he went and
Yeah.
billed the Clinton campaign for his time. And I think that's how they did the initial tieback.
Okay, and this is the charge. This is the claim. I'm not, again, this is just, I'm reading at a National Review. I think National Review is fairly objective. They try to be.
in
they're
any way,
presenting
Mike,
this.
are they paying you in any way with free use?
All right. So the
And-
FBI and CIA are
Serious.
accused of fabricating information to try to impeach Donald Trump with, and they were
Well, that's-
unsuccessful.
The
Right.
impeach part is,
Well,
that's
they
where
were
I have
successful
questions.
in the impeachment, but they were unsuccessful in the removing of office.
Okay. So let's just like try to simplify with the accusations. The FBI and CIA were breaking the law, giving information to people that they shouldn't have given information to, maybe surveilling people that they didn't really have probable cause to surveil, right? That the
Yeah.
accusation? Like once you stop, I mean, that's very common practice, I feel like.
Well,
That
was
is the mark of a tyranny. That is not common practice for America. That might be common practice in Canada or in Cuba.
Well,
Hey,
It's
we
not
are literally
common.
watching
God.
Canada fall into a tyranny right now.
John,
And-
that
and
was
this
really
kind of stuff that's going on right now,
yes.
that we're finding out about this stuff. These are hallmarks of a tyranny where you have government agencies working against the American people or manufacturing events in order to change American opinions.
Wow, you know what? I think that was well said. Man, every time I hear you guys speak, I feel like I get smarter. Thank you guys. We're going to
Well,
end the show. We're going to give final words. We'll begin with John, go with Kevin, go with Mike, and then have Anderson say his final words on this, because I know he's typing away, learning all this information. I mean, my brain feels big when I hear you guys talk. John, your final words on this topic.
Go read all the filings for yourself. Go back to the filings that were done in
You will
I'm
have
trying to
the
remember. It was like
filing.
2020, early 2021 was the first one.
Okay,
I think so. But go back and read all those filings.
I
Read the
will
stuff about
have
the
the
lawyers
filing
lying
link
about
cares
those
about
the
things.
audience.
Read the ones from modern day. I think there's been 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong on that. Sean, you can crucify me if I'm wrong on that.
That's our
But
after
read
show.
all the filings. Read all the filings. You can read the responses too.
You
from
will have the link to the
Latham
file.
and Watkins, but they're all public.
You will have the link to the file, so you don't have to look. I will give it to you.
okay,
Uh,
and these are
Read them all,
Durham,
not just the
Durham
last one.
filings.
Read them all.
Durham filings, right, John? Durham filings?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, I want to make sure I'm clear.
Read them all. Don't
If
just
you want
read
extra, if you want extra credit, get them all. But I will give you the latest one.
Okay.
Okay, Kevin.
I would like to say a few things. So, I mean, we're talking about fabricating information to kind of sway the American people. And, you know, I mean, that was kind of the accusation with the whole thing with Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. I'm not saying that, two wrongs make a right or whatever. I'm just saying it seems to be very common practice, unfortunately, in our government. And I think that maybe looking at things in it is, oh, this is the worst thing it's ever been is maybe a mistake. But I mean, I don't see there being any there in this thing. I mean, it is definitely unfortunate that our government is as corrupt as it is, but I don't see I don't know. I don't see
You sound
things.
like an anarchist to me, Kevin. Mike, final words.
I think it's a stretch to call January 6th an insurrection.
Oh wow!
And I think it's a stretch to say that that there were forces trying to undo a legal election of a president. Both of them are a stretch. I agree. Leave it there.
Anderson.
The only thing that I would like to say is that John has convinced me not to move to Canada because of what's going on out there.
You know, right? Hey, you know what?
I came so close to moving to Canada too.
You know what, man? Hey, audience, please send me an email. Let me know if we want to talk about
Hey, where is the sound file of angels singing right now? Because if Anderson and I are agreeing on something, there needs to be like angels singing and like a light coming down from heaven. And...
Please, everybody email me why I should move to Canada.
But yeah, no, seriously. I mean, audience, let us know because I had Ukraine on dock for next week, but I just might go to Canada because
yeah.
I'm telling you, we might not even talk about Trump and just be Ukraine, Canada. So that's mulling around in here. Please don't forget about our after show. Our after show comes out Tuesdays. Or it might be later. I don't want to promise that, but our after show especially for this episode will be out too. Thank you very much for listening to us at We Could Be Wrong. This is We Could Be Wrong, but who cares? And we'll be back next week. And thank you very much for watching.